Do you know why the type of null is an object in JavaScript? Or do you know that the type of alert you can see is a function, but do we have any data types such as function in JavaScript? So if you don't know answer to all of these, let's get started with this video of data types in JavaScript. In the last video, we covered variables, where we learned about all those variables types we have. For example, of let, var, const, all those things we covered. And in this video, we'll see in depth about data types. So overall, there are 8 basic data types in JavaScript, as we can see. And so let's say, just to get started. So let's say we are creating a variable let message, and in that variable we are storing a value of hello, which is a string because we are starting with a double quotes and double quotes. All of us know that this is a string. And as we created a string, but at the next line itself, we are storing a number to that one. So these kind of behavior only possible in JavaScript, right? So it's because these language are the JavaScript language or those languages those support these things. See, like I'm storing a string here, and then the next line I can store a number to this. So these kind of language who support this behavior are called as dynamically typed language. So now you know why JavaScript called as a dynamically typed, because it is not static. Dynamically on the fly you can just change the type, right? The data type you can change. So that's why it is called dynamically typed language. That means that there is no exist data types, but variable are not bound to any of them. So there are exist data types. We have data types, but variables are not bound, so they can change. So earlier it was holding a string, and now it is holding a number. Okay, then let's start with our data types. So first we'll see the number data type. So number data type, like you can see the difference. Here we have a double quote and here we don't have a double quote, and we are storing a number. So let's say I'll create a variable called as n. Let n equals to, and I'll assign it a value of 1, 2, 3. And also similarly we can also assign that same n to a floating point because it was integer, a whole number, and now we are assigning it a floating point number. That is also completely fine. The number type represents both integer and floating point number, so the number data types that can contain everything. And apart from all these two, what we have infinity type as well, that represents this mathematical infinite, because we cannot write an infinite symbol in our keyboard, of course. So that's why we have this infinity. Let's say if you want to create a variable called for infinity, let's say I'll say max length or anything. So I can say that infinite. So like this I can write infinity and it will be treated as that math infinity whatever we have. And also we can write like minus infinity as well. Like similarly we have infinity, we also have a minus infinity. And also we have other thing called as nan, N-A-N. So what is that? That is not a number, N-A-N. So what is that stands for? N is not a number, N-A-N. So that also we'll learn in depth. So what we are saying here is, apart from all these things, also we have this infinite, minus infinite, and not a number nan. Those are also a part of this number family. And infinite represents a mathematical infinite that we learned. And so this is just an example of this thing. And also one thing if you'll see here, so when this nan or not a number will be printed, when we are dividing something, for example it's string, I'm dividing by 2, because this is not a valid mathematical operation, so in this case it will return nan, not a number, right? Because if you're doing such operations, so that thing is safe in JavaScript that we are seeing here. What that safe means is, if you'll go to any other language, you'll do a invalid mathematical operation, for example like this. So in that case it will break, but in JavaScript it will not break. It will silently give you the input of n, not a number. It will say that you did something mathematical operation and I got to know that this is not possible, so this is not a number, just take this value and go. So that's how it happens. But in other languages, so they usually give a fatal error, or the program breaks at that point. But in JavaScript, at worst, you'll get a not a number. The program will not break. That's why it is being called that mathematical operation in JavaScript are safe. Okay, so we learned about number. Then what is this big int? So there is another data type we have here in house, which is big int. And what is the use of big int is, if your number is very, very big, so the integer or the number type that cannot hold that. So for that case, we use this big int. And how big is that? So that with the answer we have here in JavaScript, the number type cannot safely represent integer value larger than 2 to the power 53 minus 1. That's this number. If a number is greater than this number or less than the negative of that number, I mean, if the number range is between this number to minus this range, then that could fall in the integer or the number category. But if they are beyond that, then JavaScript's number thing cannot hold that, and that's why we have to use this big int. And usually, how do we recognize a big int? So there will be n at the end. So this is how we represent big int. And big int was this type was recently added to the language to represent integers of arbitrary lengths. And a big int value is created by appending n to the end of an integer. You can see we have appended a n. So that's how we recognize a big int. Then coming to a next data type, which is string. So in string, we can write in strings in JavaScript in three ways. So these are the three ways. So let's say we're creating a variable str, let str, and we can create a string like this where we are starting with a double quote and ending with a double quote. And there is another way also using single quote. I'm creating a variable str2 that starts with a single quote and ends with a single quote. So we don't have any difference between them. So you feel free to use any of these two. But if you are starting with double quote, end with a double quote. You cannot start with a double quote and end with a single quote or the vice versa, right? So whatever you are starting with, you have to end with that. And then what is this next part is backtick. So you can see this backtick. So this is the in your keyboard, if you'll see before number one, you have this backtick symbol. So using this also, you can create a variable. But there is some special thing over here. So I'll also show you that. So let's say I'll create a using backtick. So you can see, hi, I can write a variable, my var, let's say. So I can create a variable like this. But if you're writing in backtick, so there what extra we have is I can just add a dollar symbol and curly braces like this. And inside this, I can append another variable as well, right? So if I'll say, let's say, or we can do mathematical operation or anything. So I'll say 1 plus 1, right? And in the next line, I'll say console log of my var, right? So if I'll just run this piece of code, you'll see that height 2 is getting printed. Why? Because as we have this dollar symbol and curly braces, so it is just adding that. But if you do the same thing with a double quote, I'll say, so you my var 2, but instead of this backtick, if I will use a double quote here, and if I will just in the next line, what I'll say console log my var 2, and if I will just run this piece of code, yeah. So you can see in the first it printed high too, but in the second one it's just showing even that same thing, whatever I have written. That's because of I have used a double quote here, even the same for the single tick as well. So this calculation will only happen if you are using backtick. So if I hope everything is clear, these are the three ways to create a string in JavaScript. Okay, so these are the that thing is being explained over here. I just explained that thing, so we can skip that. And we are saying that there is no character type. So similar to other language where we have a string, but we have a char data type as well. Char. There is no char type in JavaScript, and that is coming under this string only, right? So inside this string only, you can write your char as well. There is no char. Then coming to the next data type we have, which is Boolean. Usually in every language, the Boolean data type is like a logical type, like yes or no, true or false, 0 or 1 kind of thing that you can think of. So if you are creating a variable with a Boolean data type, so we can give it a value of true or false. That's another way. In binary, we can say that's a 0 or 1. And if you'll see, that's the same thing, like nothing much. Let a variable we are creating and we're assigning a value of true, or we're assigning it a value of false. And also we can do such comparison, and JavaScript will give us a return of a boolean value. For example, here we are saying that let this variable equals to 4 is greater than 1. So now this is not a statement, this is a comparison, or we have the greater than symbol, right? So the JavaScript will evaluate this expression, and if you print this one, it will just give you the answer which is true, because it was just expression. So JavaScript evaluated this one and gave you the return value of true. So that is all about booleans. So you can just think of that. If your JavaScript data type has boolean, so it will either give you a true or false. Then coming to the next data type, which is the null value. this special null value does not belong to any of the types described above, because we described about numbers, string, and all those things. So it is not falling under any of the type. It is just something null. Null means nothing is there, empty, right? So it is just a special value that represents nothing or empty or value unknown. So we just let's say we're saying that let age equals to null. So that means that we are saying that inside age we don't have anything. Just it's just empty. It's nothing. But there is another data type that called as undefined. So in the interviews, frequently people ask this question: what is the difference between null and undefined? So I'll explain that as well. So undefined value, the special value undefined also stands apart. It makes a type of its own, just like a null. The meaning of undefined, see, we saw that the meaning of null is just empty, but the meaning of undefined value is not assigned. So we created a variable. We have not assign it anything, even we have not said that it is empty, because we have not said it anything. So in that case that value holds undefined. So I hope I'm making sense. So if there are two things, one is null and another is undefined. Null is we went through the value, we said that it will hold nothing, so that is null. But if undefined, there is a variable, but we have not checked that yet. We have not said that first it will hold. I'm not decided to what to give this. I am not sure if will hold nothing, or it will hold a number or a string. So that's why in that case we are saying that undefined. So if you see an example over here, we can say that let age, and we can just print that age. It will show undefined because we created a variable of age, but we have not assigned it any value. We have not assigned it null. We have not assigned it a number, a string, or anything. That's why it shows undefined. Technically, it is possible to explicitly assign undefined to a variable. So if you can create a variable and we can assign its value of, like similarly we assigned a age of null, we can assign the value of undefined. That is fine, but that is not recommended and that is a bad practice. Usually even in my team I don't entertain this one. I usually ask people to change that one. So it is a bad practice. You should not ever write age equals to undefined anywhere, because undefined is what is the meaning of undefined? We're saying that we have not defined it, but in the line we are assigning, we are defining, and we are saying that it is not undefined. That doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why it is not recommended doing that. Okay, then coming next, what we have, objects and symbols. So object you might have known, but symbols could be something new, but we'll explain both of them. So object, what is object? Object are used to store a collection of data in a and more complex entities. So I'll give an example as well. So I'll just let my object, I'll just create an object. So it usually starts and ends with a curly brace, and inside that we could hold key value properties. As per this example, you can see we have this name, and a name is a key and the value is 1, and age just a key and the value is 30, and like that. So this is how. And inside the cars we have also, and it can hold another object or it could hold another array. That's how we define a complex data type using this object. So object is a data type in JavaScript. And what is symbol? So symbol is a type used to create unique identifiers for object. So we'll see that here. So like this, we could create a symbol as well. Okay, so that's because in general we don't use symbols that much. So you can just know this much, that using symbol we can create unique identifier for the objects. Okay, so and also we'll learn in the next chapter so the details of this. Okay, then coming to the next operator, which is a type of operator. So in JavaScript we have a type of operator. So for example, so I'll close this variable one. Okay, so if this is an object I have, so I can just do a console log of, and what I'll say is console log, and I'll say type of my object. So I'll quickly collapse this one. Okay, so it is saying that what is the type of this one? This the type is object. So similarly, it can know the type of everything. So the type of undefined is undefined because we have not defined anything. The type of 0 is a number. Type of 10n, as n is appended at the end, it is a big int, and it is a boolean. You can see true or false is a boolean. That's why the type is printing as boolean, and it is a string. You can see, so it is printing on string. And as we created a unique identifier for symbol, so the type is a symbol here, right? And these three, last three is being highlighted because these three needs additional explanation. Why this math is object? But how can null be an object? How can alert be a function? Function, we don't have any data type function. So we'll learn these three. So let's get started with the math. Type of math. Math is actually a object in JavaScript that holds all those mathematical operations. That's why the type of math is an object. Math is a built-in object. That's why you can remember that math is a built-in object in JavaScript. That's why the type of math is an object. But the strange part, why type of null is an object? Because null is an empty thing. We're saying that if it is nothing, we're saying a null. But how it can be object? That Ajin is correct. But it is a error or the mistake in the JavaScript side, not your side. So that's an officially recognized error. Type of null should not be an object, but it is an object. Uh, that's how it is. So you have to treat it like this, and you can just explain that it is a error or it is a recognized error in JavaScript. Definitely, null is not an object. But in JavaScript, you have to write code in such a way that null is an object. That's how it is. Okay. Then coming next, type of alert. What is the type of alert? Type of alert is a function. Again, so there is no special function type in JavaScript. We learned about these types like number, big int, boolean, but we didn't learn any type for function because there is no type for function. Again, this is also a problem or a error. This behavior is not correct. Function belong to the object type, but type of treats them differently. Usually, this should be object type, right? But type of treats them differently, and this behavior is not correct. But again, that's how it is. We have to take care of that like that in our program. So now we are at the end of this episode, and we have this summary over here. The number, we know that for a certain range we have this number, and beyond that we will use this big int. And the strings, we learn that single quote, double quote, or the backtick. In the all those three ways we can create strings. Then we have the booleans that holds true or false. Then we have this null that holds nothing. Then we have undefined, that we have created a variable but we have not assigned anything, or we have not decided what to stay, what to keep there. So that's the undefined type. And then we have the symbol for unique identifier for the objects, and then we have objects and all those things. So that's what it is. So now there is a small task to guess the output. So can you guess this output? So let's see, and let's guess this output. So what we're doing is we have let name equals to a string, and now inside backtick hello, and we have this one. So hello will be printed as it is, but what this will printed, because we don't have any mathematical operation inside this one, so hello 1 will be printed. Next hello, then we have this name but with a double quote. See, inside this we have used backtick, and inside that we have used dollar, which is good. But inside this we have kept a string. We are not referencing to this one. So that's why it will print just hello name. And then coming next, you can see the difference between this and this is, here we have a string double quote, here we don't have a double quote. If you don't have a double quote, it will reference to this Ilya. So now it will be printed hello Ilya. So again in sequence the output will be hello 1, hello name, and hello Ilya. So let's copy this one, and I'll just quickly run this one to show you the outputs. Okay, because alert we cannot see in this one. Alert is a browser thing, so I'll probably show you over here, or we can change that to console. You can see the first one is hello one as we discussed, then is hello name. This is also we discussed, and hello Ilya. So that's how we discussed, and that's how it works. I hope you also were able to guess this answers correctly. Thank you for staying connected with this data types. In the next video we will see the next chapter of it, which is this interaction alert from turn confirm. So thank you for staying connected with the UI guide.